Hi, everybody. I'm Brittany Lewis, a breaking news reporter here at Forbes. Joining me once again is Congressman Wesley Hunt. Congressman, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you very much for having me on again, and thank you so much. Really appreciate that.
I'm looking forward to the conversation because you've made some big news. You recently announced you are officially jumping into the Texas Senate race. It is an already heated Republican primary. So to start off the conversation, what made you throw your hat in the ring?
Well, first of all, I got in this race because, again, I've said this 1,000 times. This race cannot be about a blood feud between Ken Paxton and John Cornyn. That's all I'm saying. We are not talking about the issues that are most important to Texans, which is the oil and gas industry, keeping our southern border secure and keeping it safe, and just overall security amongst my fellow Texans. These conversations are being thrown by the wayside because of mudslinging. Quite frankly, I'm just sick of watching it happen, and so is the primary voter. Also, I think it's time for the next generation of leadership. John Cornyn has been in the Senate, which will be for 24 years, and it is time to term limit him and give the primary voter another MAGA, America First option like me. I was the first person in the country to endorse President Trump. I campaigned with President Trump. I was on the campaign trail with him as a top surrogate. President Trump then went on to win Texas by 15 points. This is exactly what Texans want. This is exactly what primary voters want, and we are giving them another America First option.
I'm curious what makes you different from the other Republicans in this race. You're running against Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton. You're also running against Senator John Cornyn. And as you said, he is now running for his 5th term in the Senate. You are saying that you are the MAGA alternative here. However, Senator Cornyn is touting that between President Trump's first term and second term, he's voted in lockstep with Trump 99% of the time. So I'm curious, where is the daylight between you and Cornyn as well as you and Paxton?
Well, let's keep in mind that John Cornyn has a Liberty score of 54%, and the primary voter ends up buying it because he has spent $25 million over the course of the past few months, and he's still polling in the high 20s and low 30s, and he's a 24-year incumbent. That's just not going to work. Also, before me getting into this race, I was polling at 22%. That is unbelievable. There's 20% of the primary electorate that's still undecided. So if he was doing his job in the primary, then under no circumstances would me or General Paxton be in this position whatsoever. Again, we need America First patriots. And although he touts about voting with them 99% of the time, we also know that's flat out not true. And I want to let people know that I was a person that endorsed President Trump on November the 15th on 2022. John Cornyn endorsed President Trump on January the 23rd, 2024, after the Iowa caucuses. Do not tell me you are America First when it took you over a year and a half to endorse the president.
And what about Attorney General Ken Paxton? Where's the differences there between what you believe, your campaign, the things that matter to you, opposed to him?
I think General Paxton is actually one of the finest attorney generals that we've seen in the entire country. He is a fighter. He is somebody that has supported President Trump. But I also think that my youth is my asset. Keep in mind that our vice president is 41 years old. Our Secretary of State is in his early 50s. Our Secretary of War is in his mid 40s. And that's exactly where I am at 43 years old. This is the time for the next America First fighters to step into the fray to continue President Trump's legacy. And one thing that I always say is that the United States Senate is not a retirement community. This is not about getting the early bird special here. This is about people that want to give their best lives to this country, step into the fray and fight for it now. And I think that's the big difference maker between us all. And the fact that I'm giving up my seat, a lot of people are really kind of concerned about that. Wesley, why would you do that? Look, I don't believe in doing this for 10 years, staying fat and happy and just sitting in the House of Representatives. I believe in taking my talents to the people of Texas and using my God-given talents to the best of my ability. And it's not about being comfortable. It's about doing what you are called to do. And as a military veteran, as a West Point graduate, as somebody that's a former Apache pilot and deployed to the Middle East multiple times, I have skin in this game. I have a 6, a 4, and 2-year-old at my house. I want to ensure that we have a better future for them. And that's what makes me different from my opponents.
I know we've had a conversation, not you and I specifically, but the country's been having a conversation for a while now on if there should be age limits, if there should be term limits for people serving in Congress as lawmakers, in the Senate, etc. Do you think that there should be term limits based on what you're saying?
Of course, I believe that. In fact, I've signed a term limit commitment. But the problem is this: when you have 70-year-olds and 80-year-olds that aren't willing to fire themselves because they've been sitting around there for 20, 30, 40, in some cases even 50 years, what you find out is that that's not going to happen. So it's up to we, the people, to term limit these people when the time is right. I think 24 years is long enough.
What do you think the limit should be? You think 24 years is long enough? Should it be 2 terms, 3 terms? What does that look like?
Three terms, and 3 terms in the Senate maximum, which is that's 18 years, by the way. So that's sufficient.
I mean, that's a pretty long time. But
Yeah.
I did want to talk about a recent poll. You noted that you have over 20% of the vote. It's a sharply divided GOP electorate. Paxton and Cornyn are ahead. They are almost neck and neck here, almost tied at 34% and 33%. Who do you think that you can peel votes more easily from, Paxton or Cornyn?
I think we peel equally from both, and at the end of the day, people are going to have the opportunity to choose the best candidate. But I will say this: with me getting in this race, it ensures that we're going to have we're going to have 2 America First fighters that are going to be at the finish line. That's going to be me and Ken Paxton. Should it come to a runoff, or should it go further than that? That's what we have ensured. The primary voter does not want John Cornyn, hence the reason why a 24-year incumbent is still polling in the low 30s. He should be in the 60s, 70s, probably 80s. In fact, he probably shouldn't even be having a primary challenge at all, which means that the primary voter is looking for a change.
Let's say it isn't you who wins this primary. Let's say it's either Cornyn or Paxton. Would you endorse both of them going forward? Would you only endorse Paxton? I mean, what does that support look like for you after?
I'm endorsing myself. I'm endorsing myself to make sure that I win this race and that I am the candidate, and I'm going to work tirelessly to do just that.
So let's get into the issues a little bit, and I want to talk about somewhere that I've seen you split from Senator John Cornyn, and that's when it comes to gun rights. And Senator John Cornyn, he was the lead Republican negotiator on the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act back in 2022. And as we remember, this came after the horrific Uvalde shooting in Texas. And here are a few measures in that legislation. It encouraged states to enact red flag laws, enhances background checks for gun buyers under the age of 21. It closes the so-called boyfriend loop, and it provided billions of dollars to improve mental health programs. That's obviously not everything in the legislation. It's just some bullet points there. You said one of your first things you would do if you became senator was to try to repeal that. Talk to us about that.
The last thing that we need here in Texas are red flag laws. We don't need any new laws. We need to simply implement the laws that we have on the books. As I said, I'm a military guy. I am a gun owner. I also believe that making it more onerous and more burdensome for law-abiding citizens to obtain a weapon it flies in the face of what the Second Amendment stands for. Quite frankly, this piece of legislation is why John Cornyn is in the position that he is in right now. I understand what happened in Uvalde was tragic, but my knee-jerk reaction is not going to be a gun grab. My knee-jerk reaction is going to be, how do we protect our babies and how do we protect our children? Also, John Cornyn never saw a Ukraine spending bill that he didn't love. And so instead of spending billions of dollars to other countries all over the world, how about we invest in our own country and our own infrastructure to ensure that our children are safe? The bottom line is that we need a presence on these campuses, and the idea of going after innocent, law-abiding gun owners is not going to work. Again, a homicidal maniac is going to attain a weapon if he or she wants one. There are 400 million guns currently in circulation. The definition of a criminal is somebody that does not follow the law. So when you implement more red flag laws, you only hurt law-abiding citizens. I am 100% against that, and that's the reason why when I'm a senator, that's going to be my first order of business, is to protect our Second Amendment.
Congressman, I'm sure every time we see a school shooting, it's tragic. I'm sure you don't like seeing that. No one likes seeing that. It does seem to be a uniquely American problem, though. We have more school shootings than any other nation in the country. Why do you think that is? And as a senator, what would you do to fix that?
It's a culture problem. Clearly is a culture problem. You see, I was old enough, and I've been around long enough to remember where this was not an issue. You see, I graduated high school in 2000, and prior to Columbine, we didn't have this problem. We didn't have this issue. And by the way, guns were readily available back then. It is not a gun problem. It is a societal, cultural problem. And that's one big difference that I share with Democrats, and also I share with John Cornyn. I don't blame the gun. I blame the homicidal maniac. We have a mental crisis problem in this country, and that's what's precipitated what we've seen in these gun shootings. But again, prior to 2000, this was not an issue, and I was in high school. So keep in mind, let's not go after the gun. Let's find the homicidal maniacs and figure out what the actual problem is and the root causes of it, and it's never the gun.
And that legislation gave billions for mental health programs. When you want to go after the homicidal maniac, I mean, how exactly do you do that? How do we fix these root causes in this country?
Again, this is what we have to explore. And you're right, this is a very elongated conversation. It's going to take a lot of debate and a lot of conversation. The point I am making is I'm not going to restrict our Second Amendment rights in order to do that.
Let's turn to some other issues. We know that immigration is one of the top issues facing voters, facing Americans. When I've talked to members of Congress, they have said, who don't live in Texas, they've said every state's a border state. Texas, though, is actually a border state. I'm sure you've had the opportunity in your time serving to talk to members in border communities, talk to constituents there, talk to the people of Texas. What do you think's missing from the national conversation when it comes to border security and when it comes to immigration in this country?
Well, the border is pretty secure at the moment. I mean, we had 20 million people in our country illegally over the course of the past 4 years during the Biden administration. And then with the change of a new president, a snap of his fingers and a signing of a few executive orders and the hiring of Tom Homan, the border is actually very secure. The border is the securest that it's been in decades. So again, this is about us taking a very serious look and understanding the importance of border security. This is a federal issue. It's our job to keep our fellow Americans safe, and it's also our job to ensure that we have sovereign borders that protect our fellow Americans. And also, you have to be a legal American citizen to be in this country. The reason why President Trump won is literally because of this sole issue, and that is people got sick and tired of our communities and our neighborhoods being flooded with illegal immigrants. We have no idea where they came from. We have no idea how they got here. We weren't vetting them, and now we have a process of doing just that. And then now we are actually implementing and using ICE to find illegal immigrants and to send them back to their home of origin, because that's what it means to be a United States citizen in this country. You have to earn that right to be a citizen. It isn't given to you just because you illegally crossed into this country. That's why President Trump won, and I'm going to continue to stand in lockstep behind him to ensure that we implement the will of the American people.
Do the people of Texas think that the border issue is completely solved now? I mean, is there anywhere that they think that there should be more action or different action?
It's never going to be completely solved, but to be honest with you, I don't really hear many people talking about it anymore. And that's because I think, again, we're at year lows here for border crossings over the course of the past few months. And it's continuing to get better month after month after month. So I think people are satisfied with the progress when to keep doing exactly what we're doing.
And to your point about President Trump and his handling of immigration, polling suggests that most Americans do agree with him there, that a majority of Americans agree when it comes to deporting people here illegally. Most people also think that President Trump is going too far in those actions. I'm assuming, based on what you've been saying in this conversation, you disagree. Talk to us about it.
Of course, look, he is implementing the will of the American people. President Trump won every single swing state. He won the popular vote, and the majority of the counties actually swung toward the conservative side. And why is that? Because people were sick of this invasion, and that's exactly what it was. We need to keep doing exactly what we're doing, and everybody's not going to like it. I understand that that's the definition of leadership. It's actually being strong, even though you're going to take some criticism, and doing the right thing for the American public and doing the right thing for the American people. It is our job to clean up our streets. It's our job to keep our citizens safe. And look, again, you could like it, you could be upset, and what I say is, be offended, be upset. That's the American public gave us a mandate to keep her safe, and that's exactly what we're doing.
And as you know, Republicans in Texas are different than Republicans in Pennsylvania, different than Republicans in Idaho, different than Republicans in all 50 states. I'm curious, is there anywhere that you see yourself breaking or potentially disagreeing with your party or President Trump when it comes to any issue?
I think at this point, given what President Trump has done, and like I said, he's been moving very, very fast. It's really funny. We're up in D.C. and everybody asks me, what are y'all going to do this week? And I say, well, the president's moving pretty fast. Let's see what he does this morning. Quite frankly, I can't think of one thing that he has done that I disagree with. I'm actually very, very proud of these efforts. I'm actually very proud that I helped get him elected. I was proud to be the first to endorse him in this country. And you are correct. Every state is different. Every Republican primary voter is different. We have a very high information, sophisticated primary voter here in the state of Texas. And this is why you have a 24-year incumbent that's being challenged by two strong America First pro-Trump fighters. And he is not going to make it because we have a very sophisticated, high information primary voter. That's why he's polling in the high 20s, low 30s as a 24-year incumbent when he should be in the 60s. We are well aware of his record. We are well aware of his Liberty score. We are well aware on how he feels about the Second Amendment. And most importantly, we are well aware on how he really feels about President Trump. At the end of the day, the primary voter understands this, and that's what gave me room to get into this race.
I do want to get your reaction on something that the Cornyn team said in a statement. Senator Cornyn has soared ahead in the latest polling and will win this election. Representative Wesley Hunt is a legend in his own mind. No one is happier this morning than the National Democrats for watching Wesley continue his quixotic quest for relevancy, costing tens of millions of dollars that will endanger the Trump agenda from being passed. I mean, those are pretty tough words. What's your response to that?
Well, like I said, I'm an Apache pilot in the Army. I'm a West Point grad, flew 55 combat air missions in Baghdad. And when you've seen combat and you hear people like that, that's never served a day in their lives in the military, never deployed to combat, make ad hominem attacks against a veteran that did things that they never had the guts to do, I just smile and realize that I am right over the target and I am doing exactly what I need to be doing. In the Apache, we call that it's time to fire for effect, because that means we've actually upset the right people. Again, this is not about DC choosing our leadership. This is not about the NRSC choosing our leadership. This is not about SLF choosing our leadership. This is about the people of Texas choosing their next senator. So if they're upset, they're going to find out that in Texas, we have a couple of phrases, and one of them is, don't mess with Texas.
I know that you said that you endorsed President Trump very quickly. He hasn't endorsed anyone in this race yet. According to reports, Majority Leader John Thune and Senator Tim Scott have reportedly urged him to support Senator John Cornyn, but he hasn't supported anyone as of yet. What do you make of that, and do you hope that he endorses you? Have you had that conversation with him yet?
I have not had that conversation with him, and I think the fact that he has stayed out of it, he has stayed neutral, he has been clear on where his stance is today on that issue, that just means that it gives somebody an opportunity to potentially earn his support. He's not going to give it to anyone. It must be earned. And that's exactly what I want to do. I want to earn his support, and whether he gives it or not, most importantly, I want to earn the vote of the primary voter.
I'm curious what you make of the Democrat primary, because there has not been a Democrat serving as senator in Texas in decades now. But I did have a conversation with former Congressman Colin Allred yesterday. He's running in the Democratic primary, and he said that he believes Texas is flippable. So I'm curious, let's say you win the general election. Who would you rather face off against when it comes to the Democrats? Would you rather face off against former Congressman Colin Allred, former Congressman Beto O'Rourke, who has not officially entered the race but is reportedly has indicated he is thinking about it, or State Representative James Tallarico?
Ma'am, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, Texas is red, and I'm going to win that seat, and I'm going to be the next senator from Texas. There was a poll that came out that TSU and University of Houston did that actually polled the general election, and I am outperforming John Cornyn and Ken Paxton already. They had me up on Colin Allred +5. They had John Cornyn up +3, and they had Ken up +1. I am already outperforming them, and that was even before I got into this race. I'm already winning the general election. I'm a young America First patriot that believes in this country, that fought for this country, that comes from a family that has 60 years worth of military service. So we absolutely have skin in this game, and I am the person that can win the primary election and win the general election without it costing hundreds of millions of dollars, because we're already doing it. The choice is clear, and I think when the primary voter sees this, they're going to make the right choice.
And like we said at the top of the conversation, you've recently jumped into this race. The primary's in March. What's next for your campaign between then and now?
Hard work, nonstop, dedication to this craft, and ensuring that we get across the finish line. If anybody's following me on social media and seeing what we're doing every single day, we have gone nonstop. We're going to continue to do that. This is a young man's game. You have to have the energy, you have to have the spunk to do it, and we do. Every single day, we are going to work tirelessly to earn the vote of the primary voter. It's not about mudslinging. It's not about name calling. It's about sticking to policies where I am different from John Cornyn and how you are going to get a true America First fighter that believes in the values of Texas, and that's what belongs in Washington, D.C., not the other way around. That's exactly what you're going to get from me, and it's up to us to elucidate that primary voter to let them know that we exist.
Well, Congressman, I appreciate your time today. Thank you so much for joining me. Best of luck to you, and you're welcome back anytime.
Thank you. Good talking to you. Thank you very much. Have a good day.